Welcome back to Under Oath. Welcome to Under Oath with attorney Jeff Kaufman. I'm Jeff Kaufman. I'm set attorney. Got a great show for you today. We've got our Legally Screwed segment.
Mm-hmm.
We've got two attorneys arguing.
I like that.
And we also have, I get to do cool interviews sometimes with people that were very large.
Yes.
Whether it be William Shatner, a couple famous
that's
singers.
A big one. Yeah, that's a good one.
Important people that
Yeah.
I'm just so amused by. When I heard I had the opportunity to interview Newt Gingrich,
Come on.
Speaker of the House,
The Speaker.
whatever politics, whatever side you're on, to talk to somebody who has been that level of powerful, sitting in a chair in my studio,
Yeah.
that was amazing. It was amazing to have that opportunity to be able to ask somebody on that level what he thought about something that mattered to me.
Mm-hmm.
Because what I've learned is this: I can have my opinion on things,
Yes, you can.
but what I don't know would fill the Grand Canyon.
Oh, then I.
And asking him what the toughest thing what was the toughest vote he had to go through? And you would have thought it was hundreds of different things,
Oh,
but it was about sending troops to Iraq.
really?
Yeah. Because everything else is money.
I forgot that he was around during that
Yeah.
time. Oh, man.
Everything else was money.
Uh-huh.
But the idea of having to send people to war, it's not only a financial decision. It's like, wow, people are going to die by the decisions I make.
That's correct.
And that was interesting to hear. Now, he goes off sometimes in some areas that, I don't agree with.
Yeah.
But that's not my job.
No, it's not.
My job is to ask the questions. And selfishly, some of those are important to me.
Yeah.
So that was cool. All right.
Congratulations to you, my friend.
Yeah, thank you. What's the question you got for me today?
So we're doing Legally Screwed. And of
All right.
course, I'm pretty much an expert when it comes to legal system, but I let you answer some questions so
Sure.
you don't feel bad.
Sure.
So
Cruise Boat Comedians, practicing law.
that's me. Call Jay.
Exciting and new. Okay, sorry.
Here we go, man. I was in court to support a family member when I witnessed the judge being extremely hostile.
Oof.
He berated, threatened, and patronized everyone. I believe his actions went beyond hostility and amounted to discrimination. Aside from...
Ooh, discrimination?
Yes, that's a good word. We're going to come back to that.
Mm-hmm.
Aside from filing a judicial misconduct complaint, is there anything else I can do legally to address this? My judge was rude.
Do you are we guessing? All right. See, I don't want to do this.
Okay.
Okay, because people see these videos and because people listen to the podcast and people do this, I get all this feedback
Yeah.
that, Jeff, how can you assume this? Why do you feel this way? If I only have a question and I don't have a fact, he uses the term discriminate. She uses the term discrimination.
They did.
Now, people, this is the way the law works. If we're talking real discrimination, when I talk about race, religion, creed, color, sexual orientation, okay, because they were just mean to me and it had nothing to do with any protected class,
No.
it's not discrimination. It might be bias.
People might not understand that. Just explain protective class.
Okay. Here's where we fail, where the world fails.
Yes.
I was discriminated against. Why? Well, he treated me wrong. Well, somebody can treat somebody else wrong. A white man can treat a black man wrong without it being discriminatory.
That's correct.
He could have just done it because I don't like you.
That's correct.
It doesn't, unless he looks over and says something or it's very clear he did it because of race, then it's not discrimination.
That's
Crappy conduct.
Yeah. Just
In
a
this
bad human
situation, they said a couple things. Now, judges, I've been in front of thousands.
being. You have.
I've seen judges all over this country. And I'll tell you what, there are some fantastic judges. There are some great judges. And there are some horrible judges.
Because people are people.
People are people.
Yeah.
There are good presidents. There are bad presidents.
Yes.
Because people are people.
That's correct.
Maybe we should just accept that. How great would it be if we accepted the concept people are people? If people do bad stuff, why are they? Are they racist? Are they this? We can agree a racist is a bad person.
Yes.
We can agree somebody who treats just somebody poorly for no issue is a bad person.
Yes, we could.
So we can agree on one thing. Bad person.
Bad person.
People are people.
Yes.
Now, the idea that we want to protect a class because you don't want to be treated differently solely because of your classification, noble.
Yes.
Absolutely noble. Absolutely necessary.
Understandable.
We do have to understand the difference, though.
Okay.
Because I think it can breed hate when you're wrong.
Yes.
And I think this happens a lot when it comes to rape cases.
Ooh, explain.
I think it happens a lot because all it takes is one false allegation for people out there to devalue real
victims'
sexual issues.
Correct.
I mean, just one.
Correct.
You know, we are so quick, knock that stool out from under somebody.
Yeah, we are.
Because of one bad report. And we know what happens all the time. I had bad reports. I used to do criminal defense a long time ago. Yeah. And I had some sexual assault cases that were absolutely made up. Did I delude myself into thinking that rape doesn't happen?
No, absolutely not.
But it does devalue that person when they come in and say this happened. Because now, if I'm on the police force, now if I'm a prosecutor, I want to make sure this case is perfect. You know how many cases are dropped because they're not perfect?
Wow.
Way too many.
There you go.
Now, in this situation, what can you do? And you said something very important. I can report.
Yeah, you can.
I can report the judge.
Yes.
There are actually two things.
Okay.
And the second one, scary.
Okay, let's go to the first one first.
First one is yes. There are boards all over this country that you can report the judges to say that they acted poorly.
Okay.
And I've seen judges lose their jobs because of it.
Okay, but does that depend on who does the reporting? Is it a lawyer or is it a civilian?
I think anybody can report it. The question is do you have proof it happened?
Okay.
A lot of judges in these situations, they go, no, nothing happened. It wasn't wrong, so on and so on. But if you would have said something that was overtly racist or something like that, yes, you can be burned. Now, here's the second option, and people don't know about it.
Uh-oh. We're about to learn this little legal secret, if you will, like this.
There's a second option.
Okay.
Let's say, for example, you find out a judge was on the take or committing fraud.
Okay, that's a serious accusation. Okay.
Yeah, that they committed a crime and they're ruling a certain way for a criminal intent or a purpose like that. You can go to the FBI.
But you got to have proof, right? I assume.
Well, yeah, you should have proof.
Yeah, you got it.
You can't just go with a feeling.
Nah.
But when the FBI gets involved, things get serious.
I can imagine.
So it's something that I'm not recommending people to do.
You're just saying this is an option that
I'm just
people
saying
do
that
have. Yes.
the judges are kind of disciplined by their own boards, and the FBI can be involved.
Gotcha. No,
if there's a criminal issue involved.
Let me follow up with the
So there are judges out there. Please don't take this against me, but it's in the books. I'm not telling people I'm telling people what they don't know, but it is in the books.
Got it. Now let me follow up on option number one. Let's say you, as a civilian or a lawyer, do this and report a judge. Is it taken very seriously when that happens?
It doesn't matter whether an attorney does it, but the fact is this: anytime you go to law enforcement in any matter, yes, your status is going to affect whether they take you serious or not. And I'm going to say this, and people are going to be livid, but we live in the real world. If some homeless person walks up the street and goes into the FBI office and says, this happened.
Yeah.
In comparison to, let's say, myself as an attorney, because I walk in. Credibility is determined by what and who you are.
Yeah.
And that happens on the stand too. Don't confuse yourself. If I testify in a courtroom in comparison to, and I'm going to go to the homeless person again, juries naturally are going to give me more credence. The same way they give police officers more credence.
They do.
In certain cities than they do the person on trial.
You're right.
Like if a police officer says he did this and the defendant says he didn't do it, it's a he said, she said, but who are they going to believe?
The officer.
Almost every time.
Yeah.
And I can tell you this right now. I had a case and I remember it very clearly. The officer I knew didn't remember what happened in the stop. And I asked him a question and I know he was starting to make it up. And you're going to, how do I prove this? I asked him, I said, well, you're saying he stole this item. When you went into his wallet, did you find a receipt? He goes, no, I didn't. I said, well, that's strange because my client didn't have a wallet.
Got him. Got him.
You think I got him.
Uh-huh.
You think I got him. The prosecutor objects. We proceed forward. And the judge says to me, I don't like your tactics. I don't like how you trick this officer.
Why?
I said to the judge, I gave him an opportunity to lie and he took it.
You did?
I asked him, did he look into my client's wallet? I didn't say my client had a wallet.
Yeah. And he agreed.
And he said, yes, he did. I said, now you're upset that this officer just arbitrarily lied. He goes, no, you tricked him.
How?
He made up something he had no knowledge of.
Yes.
That's a lie.
Yes, it is.
You're going to say, I tricked him? So every question I ask him is going to be a trick if
It's a
he
trick.
answers in a lie.
Yeah.
And this judge said, Mr. Kaufman, go back. And if you do it again, I'm going to hold you in contempt.
So he's mad at you because this guy lied.
What he was mad about, what he was really mad about, certain judges are elected by the people and they need to be backed in different cities. I need support of the police force. I need the police union saying, hey, listen, he's our guy. Because remember, people pick sides.
Yes, they do.
Like we heard about newspapers picking sides.
Yes.
And where newspapers an hour said, hey, listen, maybe it's not a good idea for us to do something because it's unfair because our politics should not affect the politics around us.
Okay.
And that's what they're saying. We're supposed to be unbiased. And when they're not, we have problems. So yes, judges will do certain things for certain reasons. Again, there are fantastic judges out there. I've been in front of some of the best judges in the world. Some of my best friends are judges.
Got it.
And I respect them beyond belief.
Mm-hmm.
But there are some people out there who are there for the paycheck and they do what they do and they rule a certain way to protect that paycheck.
Their interests.
And if you're offended by what I said right now, you're lying to yourself. If you're a judge upset by what I just said, you and I all know a judge who acts like this. And if you say you don't, that's because you're that guy.
Oh, burn.
All right. Fan favorite segment? Two attorneys arguing?
They have to be talking
See,
about
the problem is we argue, but we argue in our own way, where it's semi-supportive, but then it's like, no, I disagree. Okay. I'm interviewing Newt Gingrich.
That is amazing.
Is that amazing? One of the most powerful guys
Do
who
me a
ever
favor.
walked the planet.
Can I give you some questions to ask?
No.
Just a
'cause
couple.
He'll hang up on me. He'll hang up on me. He'll
A
literally
couple.
go click.
Ask him about the aliens.
Ask him about what?
The aliens.
The aliens?
Ask him about it.
Yeah. Hey, ex-speaker.
What's going on with the aliens?
Speaker Newt Gingrich.
Yes,
I have
there's
a very
no way
important
he
question.
doesn't know.
I'd like to talk about the aliens. Click.
He's not going to hang up on you for asking about the aliens. I bet you if you ask him, what is the question you could ask the most? I bet you it's the alien question.
Really? You think the aliens?
Yeah.
And you know what he does? He goes, you know what I do every time?
Click.
Oh, he did hang up on me. Now, the issue, I will talk to him about lawfare and whether you can trust the media or not. Because he didn't have the problems that we have now dealing with social media. There was no social media.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, he was powerful in the 90s.
Yeah.
I think they had AOL. I mean, that was the extent of it. That's all
I
he had.
remember the dial-up.
Yeah. And you didn't have time.
modem.
A picture takes like 7 weeks to come through, and then it was always some fake picture. It wasn't what you downloaded. Not that I was downloading any weird stuff. Kids are so spoiled.
Didn't you hate it?
Nope.
I'm going to describe something. I bet this happened to you. You see a picture, right? You see the thumbnail. You would like to see the big picture, so you click on it, and it starts downloading, and it just gets to like the chin. And you're like, no, keep going. And then the thing's going around.
Disconnected.
Yes. That was frustrating.
I don't know what you're talking about, but yes, I can imagine how frustrating that was for you.
Yeah, shut up. Okay. I know that happened to you on multiple occasions.
I will ask him about that. I'll ask him about and trust in the media, because that's scary. The idea that people can arbitrarily say things for the sense of just, let's just say this, entertainment. Because that people don't get it. News is entertainment. And when they ask me how that is, because you pay for commercials.
You know what's weird about the news is if you ask really old people are probably in the old folks home right now.
Like us?
Like 90s.
Okay, all right.
People in their 90s, late 80s, 90s. when they were growing up, everybody knew that the newspaper was slanted for either Democrat or Republican. They all knew that. Like, it was expected. You bought the newspaper based on what sort of political leaning you had, not because you were buying the newspaper for, oh, I want the unbiased, just unvarnished truth. Don't give me any slant.
I think there was a
They
patriot.
all knew that every one of these papers was
were
leaning left to right.
patriotic. I think we appreciated veterans more. I think we celebrated our country more. I think there was 4th of July. I think we were more patriotic and more respectful about us as Americans. And I'm not talking about like Vietnam. I'm talking about basically everyone said that the July 4th, oh my God, that's so important. And now we're like, oh, you got a hot dog? I mean, that's it. My concern is like Walter Cronkite. I'm Walter Cronkite. And the guy who talked to you, that was your grandfather, and you believed him. You knew he was telling the truth.
Yes.
It wasn't you're going, oh, he just doesn't like this guy. And now
It would never occur. It would never occur to at
we
least
never
us
thought it
when
was
we were
about
kids.
likability.
Yeah.
We never thought that the reason why the news would be slanted on whether I liked somebody or not, or whether he was part of my political party. We didn't believe that. And I think that when, let's just say, cable news came out, I think when CNN, MSNBC, Fox, when those 3 networks came out, and then they're taking away from, there's no more local news because not enough people listen to it. They go, okay, we're all going to watch this national news. And I'm going to ask him. What he thinks. And you know what I guarantee he's going to say? I guarantee he's going to say, no, you can't trust your news. And that's scary. It is scary, and I can understand why we're suing. A lot of attorneys are suing news companies that they never would have sued before. And they're actually getting paid because to show how, let's just say, inept some of these stories are. All right, we got a question today. Everyone, if you want to send us a question, send it to jeff@whenyouneedus.com.
McDonald's and Burger King are being sued for making their burgers look bigger in ads than they actually are.
That's kind of like when I sent a pic.
Plaintiffs call it false advertising, while the angle and how close it is to the camera, all places. While companies argue no one expects food to look exactly like the commercials. Should companies be legally required to make ads match reality, or is this just part of marketing? Should companies? So this is a philosophical question.
No, it's not. It's ethical.
Companies.
Ethics. It's ethical. It's legally. If I'm buying something based on something you show me, like if I was buying a car and you sent this thing and you showed it to me and it was like, wow, this is amazing, and I show up and it's a rust bucket.
Yeah, that's
Is it false advertising?
That's bait and switch.
Or is it puffering?
Bait and switch.
Puffering. Now, puffering, for those who don't know, puffering has been determined by courts all over the country when an advertisement isn't clear. When they say, oh, this is the best hamburger you'll ever eat. Okay.
That's not actionable.
Not
actionable.
It's
puffery.
It's puffering.
But bait and switch is actionable. Hey, come on down this Saturday from 9 to 10. We've got a huge selection of these cars.
These cars are selling for $200.
Yeah. And you get there and
one. Oh, we sold that one already.
Yeah, we sold that one actually before we even opened today. But here's this other car I can show you.
Yeah.
So, yeah. One is you deceive people onto your property so that you have an opportunity to sell them something that they didn't come there to buy.
The foot long from Subway wasn't actually
wasn't 12 inches.
Wasn't 12 inches.
Did they break out a measure?
It's like 11.
Like 11 and
around
3/8.
11. That's what the guy was arguing. And this wasn't me. I didn't measure. Trust me. Well, Jeff, you don't do this. Shut up. I didn't do it. This is a case that was actually filed. The guy says it's not a foot long. It's less than 12 inches.
So I got lured onto the property. Shape. I would not have put. That looks like about 18 inches to me. I don't know what you're talking about.
God, got to get some LASIK. But yeah, no, when it comes down to something like that, first off, the burgers they show you, a lot of times they're not burgers. A lot of times they're made of something else. The mayonnaise is mayonnaise, it's glue. You know, there's so many things used because the lights would burn your average burger out. Yeah. So they do all these, that food is not edible. You can't eat The burger in all the pictures they show, no matter what picture it is, it's never the actual burger.
I agree.
And it's silly, but I agree.
So should they be forced to use the actual burger and the actual mayonnaise?
Oh, you don't want to see that.
You know what? There might be a small argument. If I took a burger and I put it on a scale, I'm like,
if I lied about the weight by a ridiculous amount.
Look how heavy this burger is. Come on down by Jeff's Big Burgers. They're heavy. They're 2-pound burgers.
There's a disclaimer. Weighed before cooking. Weighed before cooking.
Weighed before cooking when I was standing on the scale holding the burger.
With my finger. You have to expect certain things. But direct deceit is a whole different concept. I mean, the idea of just being outwardly lied to about things and going, all right,
So the difference in like, what's that knockoff website where you order?
Temu?
Is it, because you see these all the time on social media. What you were expecting from Temu versus what you got from Temu. Here's the picture.
You paid $3.
Here's the picture of what I thought I was buying, and here's this garbage bag with sleeves that showed up in my mailbox.
Oh, how many times have I ordered something and they come to the office and everyone makes fun of me?
Oh, all the time.
Oh, I get burned all the time by it because I'm wow, that looks really cool. Dumbass.
When it's that bad.
I think when you're intentionally deceived, for example, when you order an iPad and it's not an iPad, let's say it's a Fire tablet.
It's a Q pad.
That's a Q or something else like that. I mean, that's fraud. And people don't get the difference between fraud and something else, but there is always a lawsuit. There's always some attorney willing to take a case like this.
What makes it different in food versus a product or a tangible product that doesn't decay?
I don't think there's any difference between, unless it gets you sick, unless they're promising, for example.
Well, because if I'm showing you this big giant burger and I say it's a quarter pounder, it's a quarter pounder. I'm selling a quarter pounder, but I'm actually showing a full pound burger on the advertisement. Hey, come buy this juicy quarter pounder. And the meat's thick, and I'm holding it up to the camera, and people are like, wow, what a great price for a quarter pounder. I keep saying quarter pounder. I'm not lying. I'm saying come down and buy my quarter pounders that I'm selling, but I'm holding up like a 2-pound burger to entice people in to come in and buying these burgers.
That's a tough call because, what if the burger is never the burger you're eating when they show it?
Yeah.
So it's the same thing. I mean, I'm not going to
bring up. It should be of the type.
There's another Subway thing, the tuna. When they go, there's no tuna. You call it tuna. But we've tested the DNA, and the tuna is almost non-existent.
Oh, is it some other kind of fish?
I don't know. Supposedly it's like not a lot of tuna. It's not a lot of tuna.
Hopefully it's some kind of fish and not not a cat.
I got a feeling if we had enough cats were getting killed to take care of all the tuna in every Subway, we'd have found out earlier.
Yeah, maybe.
But I mean, the point is that if I order a tuna and there's no tuna in it,
or
the percentage was like 10% tuna, 90%, let's say
whale fat.
Well, do you know that imitation crab? No crab. They even say it in the name. It's imitation.
Yeah, I know imitation crab. It's in the name.
A lot of times it's Alaskan kingfish, and they cut it down into a paste, and then they actually like paint a red line across it. I've seen it get cut and everything else like that, and it looks like crab.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
It tastes good too.
Tastes good.
If you think it's crab and you start eating it,
I lie to myself. But yeah. So what do we do? Lawsuit or not lawsuit?
No, you got to protect people's ability to advertise and puffery a little bit, and even to the point where, maybe you let some stuff slide because you don't want to impinge the puffery aspect of it. So maybe you let it slide that I'm holding up a much bigger burger than what I'm actually saying, as long as I'm not saying that you're getting more than what you're paying for.
Okay.
If I'm saying quarter pounder, it's a quarter pounder when you get here, you can't be that mad at me because I held up a 3-pound burger in front of the TV.
All right. Well, in the next interview with Newt, I'm not going to discuss aliens, tuna, or...
You got to talk about aliens. You have to do me a personal favor.
We're not doing it.
Just say, hey, my hillbilly friend, Craig.
Yes, my hillbilly partner, Craig, wants to know about the aliens.
Don't tell him you're my partner.
What, do you assume something else?
Well,
some stranger named Craig?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
You can save face a little bit.
All right. Well, I got Newt coming right on. Our guest today is former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich. Newt, can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, I can hear you great. I am excited about your new documentary coming out. Why don't you tell me a little bit about it?
It's called Journey to America, and it is 9 people who came to the United States legally and have made us a better country and a stronger country. And we did it to draw the contrast. We're both Callista and I are very opposed to illegal immigration, but at the same time, we are very much in favor of legal immigration. And so we wanted to communicate that, we really get a lot as a country out of people who come here voluntarily. It's really remarkable. And I think that it's something that people will find very educational and very interesting, because we've had a lot of really interesting people come to the United States. And this show on PBS tries to really communicate just how big a deal it is.
Now, what do you think it is? I mean, for example, when you're suffering in another country and you come over here, and you don't have the same opportunity, do you think these people have a little more motivation to succeed than, let's say, somebody born here?
Yeah, I always tell people that there are 2 kinds of immigrants. There are temporal immigrants called children, and there are geographic immigrants who come from other countries. And the geographic immigrants know that the difference in the quality of life is so enormous that they really have a great opportunity in America to pursue happiness, to become successful, and to live in a country that obeys the rule of law and the Constitution. And so I think from that standpoint, there's no question that they're excited. And I find, as a general rule, that the first-generation immigrants are, in fact, more patriotic, more committed, have a deeper sense of what has made America great than a lot of young people who grow up here, take it all for granted, and don't pay attention to it.
I mean, I've always wondered that. I had the benefit of serving in our military, so I have an appreciation for things. But do you think we get spoiled, growing up here and not knowing how tough it is in other countries?
Yeah, I think that it's a real problem, because a lot of people, first of all, the schools have all too many teachers who don't like America and don't like the Constitution and don't like our history. And second, I think, if you're used to working hard, that's one thing. If you're not used to working hard, then that's a different kind of situation. And unfortunately, all too many young Americans, not just wealthy, but even poor young Americans, the welfare state has convinced them that as long as they can apply for food stamps and public housing, they don't have to work very hard. And I think that's a tragedy. And I think it's something that we really have to consider in the future. How do we get back to a work ethic for every American? When we did welfare reform in 1996, it was the most successful conservative social reform in modern history. We had a huge number of people get off of welfare. They got jobs. They rose. Their children were doing better. We had the biggest number of children leaving poverty after welfare reform in 96 than any other time in American history. And that's because work matters. Work changes you. And if you're a child, watching your parents get up every day and go to work also has an impact. Watching your parents get up every day and simply go and get food stamps or sit around and wait, that also is something.
Well, COVID kept a lot of people at home, and I don't know the answer. How do we get everyone back to work again?
Well, you don't pay them if they don't show up. Not complicated. And you change all the welfare rules so there's a work requirement. You don't give people anything. I mean, America was not built by giving people things. America was built by allowing people to pursue happiness. Note the term. We're endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights, among which are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The Declaration of Independence does not guarantee us happiness. It guarantees us an opportunity.
Now, what's interesting is when you were Speaker of the House, basically the internet didn't exist. There was no social media. There was no nothing. We relied on news sources to get us news. How do you think that change has affected politics nowadays?
Well, I think the ecosystem of communication is so different from when I started running. And I think Trump sort of mastered it this year. If the most popular podcast is 3 hours, you go to Dallas and you do 3 hours. And I think the fact that Kamala literally could not have survived 3 hours told people a lot. If TikTok matters, and then you find people on TikTok who want to talk about it. And if you think about it, Trump has this genius, which I think he probably really developed doing The Apprentice for 13 years, which nobody in the political news media ever seemed to understand. But he spent 13 years with a top-rated TV show. And so you say one way to communicate is to do something everybody has to cover and talk about. So, you go and you work at McDonald's. Can you imagine the total coverage that he got working at McDonald's that Saturday? Or you fly in and have a garbage truck waiting for you. By the way, somebody told me last night that the garbage truck's going to be in the inaugural parade, which is just hysterical. But those things penetrate to everybody, Everybody can identify with them. 87% of the country goes to McDonald's at least once a year. And a friend of mine said that's actually not accurate, that another 7% go, but they're ashamed to admit it.
That's pretty funny. I never thought of that too much. I guess being Speaker of the House, I can't imagine, the responsibility. I mean, a lot of people, they get little snippets of what that life was like. What was the hardest thing being Speaker of the House?
I think balancing the desire of my members and the reality of a Democratic president, because we could get a lot done, but we couldn't get everything done. And in the end, I only lasted 4 years, in part because even though we had balanced the budget for 4 consecutive years for the only time in the last century, we passed welfare reform, we'd invented Medicare Advantage, and we did a whole range of tax cuts and reforming the FDA, reforming telecommunications. In the end, there was about 20 members of my party for whom that wasn't enough. And so you're always sort of balancing that. I have the greatest respect for Mike Johnson because he is just amazing in what he has been doing. And I really think that he is, I could not do his job. You have a 1 or 2 or 3 vote margin. That means any morning out of the 220 some people you're leading, any morning, 2 or 3 of them can screw everything up. And so you've got to just pay attention at a level that I was probably incapable of.
I just can't even imagine that. The weirdest thing about what I do is I'm also an attorney. I've taken at least 8 bars. I've studied the Constitution. And over the last couple of years, it seems every time a party wants to get something through where they can't get it through, they want to change the rules. They want to change the number of Supreme Court justices there. And I can't tell people how dangerous that is, just because you're not getting your way. I mean, I'm sure you have an opinion on that.
Yeah, I think that ultimately governing is a team sport. And ultimately you're either on the team or you're not. And it's like a football game. Imagine in the middle of the Super Bowl, one of the guys decided he wasn't going to play, and he just, let the other team run over him. That would guarantee that the whole team loses. So you have to somehow communicate that we're more than just individuals, that we're a team, and that we owe it to the team to do things.
I mean, it's so difficult to imagine that we would change, the number of Supreme Court justices we have and everything else simply because we don't like certain things instead of waiting out and maybe changing justices out.
Oh, yeah. But that's exactly what happens is people decide, if I don't get exactly what I want. I used to tell people that Teddy Kennedy would get awake and say, the answer is more money. What's the question? Well, you have a handful of Republicans who get awake and say, I'm voting no. What's the issue?
Yeah, that's hard when you think about it. And I think one of the problems is our media cycles are so quick, and I don't think we really fact check our anything anymore. I mean, I go on the news and I see somebody go, well, a rumor here and a rumor here. I mean, has the media changed so significantly that we might not be able to trust what we're hearing?
Absolutely. I mean, you've had, for a lot of different reasons. For one thing, you have a much more partisan media where what matters is what they want to tell you. And I think that's different than what people normally are involved with. Second, I think it's important to recognize that as the media is broken down, the sheer professionalism has disappeared. I mean, in the old days, if you were on CBS News, you would spend a lot of time learning to be a reporter, learning how to judge sources, and they had a standard that was real. Now I think what you're seeing is a very different time.
I mean, how difficult is it for you? You're sitting in the middle of an interview with, let's say, a more hostile news company, and they're just waiting for those gotcha moments. In your career, I'm sure you sat down for a bunch of these. I mean, what do you do when you're just sitting there and waiting for the attack to happen?
You just relax. I mean, look, I've done this for so many years, and I've been attacked by so many people. I don't worry about it. It's part of a free society is that people get to be different, and people get to talk to each other, and you just have to relax and live it out.
Now, I have a lot of listeners, and a lot of people want to make a difference in this world. And somebody comes to you, a young person, he's 18, 19 years old. He says, listen, I want to be in Congress someday. I want to do more for my country. What advice would you give me as far as a direction? Do I join the military? Do I just go to college? What would be a good path for me?
Well, what I would say to them is two things. Read as widely as you can. Read biographies. Read about people who've succeeded. Read about elections, so you really thoroughly know what you're talking about. And second, find campaigns to be a volunteer. Politics is so complicated that it's much better to have a personal, real experience. And you get that by you show up. When I was a junior in high school, I went to the Nixon Lodge campaign in Columbus, Georgia, and there were almost no Republicans in Georgia back then. And so the process of I walked in the door, they were thrilled, and they promptly had me, folding envelopes and putting on stamps. And it wasn't glamorous, but I began learning the business. And I think that's a key part of this.
It's funny you brought that up when, I had a discussion about this just recently when they were talking about presidents and everything. And President Nixon, you think about what he went through at the end, where it was an issue of presidents can't lie, presidents can't say things that are untruthful. When did that stop?
I think that gradually, in some ways, it's always been there. We used to have, for example, Alexander Hamilton and Thomas Jefferson each financed a newspaper to attack the other. Now, they were serving in the cabinet. Hamilton was Secretary of the Treasury. Jefferson was the Secretary of State, but they hated each other. And so literally they each put up a newspaper to attack the other. So some of this has very deep roots in the American system. And I tell people, it's okay. Out of all the noise, we figure out eventually what's the truth.
You were a professor and you had the opportunity to teach students. And are you ever frustrated that history changes on whims, whether it be from movies, whether it be from opinions change, or just rewriting it?
Well, I don't know the change. I don't know the history itself changes, but the interpretations change. But that's always been true. You had, for example, a British radical named Thomas Paine came to the United States back when we were still colonies, wrote the most important single pamphlet in the Revolutionary War called Common Sense. And then when the war was, which was published about the time as the Declaration of Independence, and was the most widely read single document in that period, and the war was going badly, Washington asked him that fall, write another pamphlet and explain to us why this is so hard. And he wrote a pamphlet called basically it's called The Crisis, which basically said, it opens with, these are the times that try men's souls. And he says, hell is not easily, and we have to persevere. It had a galvanizing effect on people. Now, that was propaganda. It wasn't technically news in the sense you mean it, but it was the most effective single information source, those two pamphlets, in the entire American Revolution.
It's hard for the average person to, discover the truth and everything like that. And there was a lot of issues that came in this last election. Like, how does somebody win the primaries and you just substitute somebody else? I mean, even I, who big study of the Constitution, was going, how does that even happen? How do you even explain that to the people? I mean, everyone asked me the legality of that. And I said, well, I guess people can vote for who they want to vote for and parties can do that. I mean, when that happened, has that ever happened before in our history?
Yeah, I think it's always been a challenge to figure out what do you believe. And when you have partisan politics, Andrew Jackson was so controversial, and the establishment hated him because he was a genuine populist, and he represented the West, and he represented the blue-collar working class, and he was very controversial president who killed the Bank of the United States, which was the biggest single institution in the country at the time, and the bias against him was so great that he's president from 1828 to 1836. The first positive biography of him is by Arthur Schlesinger Jr. I think it's in 1936. Basically, almost a century, with nobody writing positive because the elite establishment have all decided that they despise him and they hate him.
Oof. They're tough times. Now, I know you went through a lot. You represented our country for a very long time. What do you think in your heart, was the most difficult moment in our country while you were serving?
I think probably the decision to go to war in 1991. I think that we had to do it. Saddam had seized Kuwait, and we couldn't allow that to stand. But it was a vote to send young men and women to die. And I think that's always has to be a vote of conscience. I was the whip at the time, and I would tell members, I'm not going to ask you to do this. I'm going to ask you to look at your own conscience. And whichever way you vote, I'm going to support you and recognize that you are doing this based on your conscience.
Now, that's interesting because we talk about the greater good when we think of that. I mean, how difficult it is for you when you're sitting at the top of this, chain, and you're going, this is good for us, but it's going to cause me a lot of nightmares.
Right, and I always admire presidents who pick up the phone and call families and say, your son or daughter was killed in battle today, and they died for America. And I just wanted you to know that your country is very grateful. It's a very sad thing. I mean, that's hard.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you've gotten many letters from veterans and their families asking for help. I mean, how difficult it is for our veterans to be taken care of nowadays.
Yeah, I think that's part of it is that, and of course, we have a very large Veterans Administration. It needs to be reformed and overhauled. But nonetheless, the country, going all the way back to Lincoln and the Civil War, the country has had a very deep commitment to veterans and should. These are people who risk their lives and whether they get killed or they get deeply wounded, they have done that on behalf of the nation.
Now, we have a huge homeless population, and there are a lot of veterans on the street. Where can they go? Do you have any idea what they can do to get the help they need?
Sure. I think, first of all, we need to recognize we made a huge mistake in the 50s and 60s when we closed the mental hospitals. We had this theory that you could put people in group homes of 8 to 20 people, and they'd somehow be better off. It turned out not to work. A very large percentage of the homeless, in fact, are people who have mental problems. And you've got to decide, is there freedom to avoid taking the right drugs and to live on the street more important than your freedom to live in a country that doesn't have thousands and thousands of people on the street? And that's a balancing act. But I think ultimately our goal has to be not how do we take better care of them on the street, but how do we get them off the street? And if that means building group homes, or if that means reopening mental hospitals and having drug addiction requirements. I mean, I thought it was very significant that San Francisco, for all of its liberalism, has now said that if you test for drugs, you cannot get any kind of public aid unless you go into a drug treatment program, period. Because they were just tired of it. They were tired of needles on the street. They were tired of human feces on the street. And it finally got bad enough.
Well, I can't tell you how great it's been talking to you, Newt. Well, that wraps up today's show. I'm attorney Jeff Kaufman. Thanks for joining us. Special thanks to my two co-hosts, my good friend, professional comedian James John, and my law partner, Craig Lind. This show is sponsored by Kaufman Lind. If you or someone you know has been in an accident, contact us at 407-500-JEFF or 407-500-5333 for a free consultation, or visit us at whenyouneedus.com.